You may have seen in the news and on social media the past few days that a man in West Virginia has been arrested on a felony charge called terroristic threats for allegedly threatening the governor of West Virginia via use of a meme on Twitter. I will be representing this guy and defending him, and we're already going to court here in a couple days. This is Kanawha County, West Virginia. This man was charged with a felony. Here is a partial screenshot of the meme that he did not create, he just shared on Twitter. As you can see, this is a Wild West style wanted poster that says wanted for crimes and acts of treason against the citizens of West Virginia. And then it has, of course, the West Virginia governor's official portrait on the wanted poster in the style of the Wild West. Now, he didn't create this, he just shared it, but he added some text which may not have sounded right in hindsight. It says, I think it's time to bring back public hangings on the state capitol lawn, starting with the corrupt West Virginia governor, and so on and so forth, for crimes against humanity, violating our constitutional rights, lynch mob justice. So the next day, he gets a visit at his home in Kanawha County, West Virginia, by 3 state troopers. And they ask him to delete the tweet. He agrees. They ask him for a statement. He agrees. He explains to them that it was just political speech. He wasn't literally calling for a lynch mob, and it wasn't actually a wanted poster. It was just a meme. He explained to them he wasn't actually a threat. And so they left, but in the end, they ended up charging him with felony terroristic threats. So here's the actual law. Any person who knowingly and willfully threatens to commit a terrorist act with or without the intent to commit the act is guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof, and then it states the penalty. So it defines terrorist act as an act that's likely to result in serious bodily injury or damage to property or the environment, and intended to intimidate or coerce the civilian population or influence the policy of a branch or level of government by intimidation or coercion. And as you'll see, that's what they went with here. This is the police report from the criminal complaint, which in West Virginia is the same thing as an application for an arrest warrant. So this is from the arresting/investigating officer to the court for the permission to get an arrest warrant. And this is what it alleged. On Wednesday, November 18th, the officer who signed this was contacted by members of the State Police Executive Protection Detail. This is for the governor. And they were made aware of social media posts from an individual that had been deemed a possible threat to the safety and security of the governor. So on the same day, this officer was provided a screenshot of this Twitter post, and it gave his name. And it reads the language of the tweet. I think it's time to bring back public hangings on the state capitol lawn, starting with the corrupt West Virginia governor, Jim Justice, West Virginia, and all the unelected corrupt CCP hacks, Clay Marsh, that is our COVID czar here, a doctor here in West Virginia, Ayn Amjad, another doctor, part of this whole COVID tyranny that's going on, West Virginia DHHR, that's Department of Health and Human Resources, for crimes against humanity, violating our constitutional rights, lynch mob justice. Including in the post was a computer-generated image, a meme is what he's referring to, of Governor Justice and a wanted poster. And the picture states the governor is wanted for crimes and acts of treason against the citizens of West Virginia. Reward, preserving freedom. Now, through investigation, they mentioned that they identified the owner of the tweet, though they did mention that he wasn't the one who had manufactured it. He had just shared it. And it mentions that on the same day that this officer traveled to his address, and I'd blacked that out. And after reading him his Miranda rights, he had agreed to give a statement regarding the tweet. And he told this officer that he was exercising his First Amendment rights. And he said he was expressing a thought, not a threat, not a harm, just a thought. Actually, it's a very good sentence. The undersigned officer inquired if he thought the public execution be brought back and the governor be hung. Mr. Long stated that for those that violate the Constitution and the law, then yes. Mr. Long's tweet expresses his belief, and this is where it gets crazy. Mr. Long's tweet expresses his belief that the pandemic response policies of Governor Justice, etc., violate the Constitution. In retaliation for those violations, Mr. Long's tweet calls for quote, lynch mob justice and the public execution of all three government officials. And then he goes on to allege that the tweet is also an attempt to influence future COVID-19 policies of Governor Justice by intimidation and by threats of public execution, and so on and so forth. So that is really the most bizarre part of this charge. Most of us realize that there are limits to the First Amendment. For instance, you can't go into a crowded movie theater, as they often tell us, and yell fire. You can get in trouble for that. And you also can't engage in what they call true threats. So you can't actually threaten somebody and then claim as a defense that you were expressing First Amendment speech. But where does that line get drawn? Those sometimes can be difficult cases. Now, here, there's no dispute that this was a political expression of speech. This was political criticism that's highly protected under the First Amendment. But did it cross the line of being a true threat of harming somebody? And did it cross the line to the extent at which they've alleged in this criminal complaint that he was specifically trying to intimidate the governor and our COVID czar, etc., into changing their policy? I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch. That's a little bit absurd. Now, we will already be in court and possibly questioning witnesses on this here on Wednesday of this week. So stay tuned and I'll update then.